Welcome to EVE Online. I'm Major Freak. We're going to be dealing with overviews, and I'll jump right into it. This is the default overview you've probably all seen and hated. What I'm going to do is you get your overview settings open, and we'll go with a custom overview. I've been doing this for years, and this is almost my 60th version. What we're looking for when we load a new overview like mine that has the moons, you can see them in the HUD listed here. You want to be able to see them in the HUD. If they're not listed in the HUD, right here, what you need to do is just hold Control Alt X, I think, or is it Shift Alt X? Shift Alt X. Yes, Shift Alt X, and it'll bring up the moons. It's very difficult to save to disk and export your overview with these visible. It'll usually shut it off. So do be careful if you do making your own overviews and want to see the moons in the main screen, that it is problematic. Once you're able to successfully save them, it's usually when you open them, the overview settings, and go to export. Sometimes I can't reproduce it completely, but sometimes you'll find the system will remove that from HUD while you're saving your settings. I forget if it's either in these brackets you're pressing the wrong thing, or here you're pressing the wrong thing, or, well, wrong is in upsetting Eve's snowflake interface. But yeah, that's the first thing you need to check when you load a overview, is whether you've got your settings getting imported correctly. That's the first thing you need to do. The other thing is that can go wrong is the default readout when you click on things or hover over them is set to the way you want it to, because sometimes it'll just reset it to default, especially if you go into overview settings. I think it's the ships. If you go into here, it might bugger things up for you. I've heard that happen. Anyways, so those are the stumbling steps. So I've got this listed. What I've done is I've gone in and I've made little entries for, like, extra. I've gone break, so I've made it a second line, and then I've put in these text, which is to match up with the columns that I've made. Quite a lot of columns. You might not like them all. I've actually gone and deleted a bunch of them, the columns, and been able to shorten my narrow my overview, because it's quite wide right here. So what I do is when I go to low sec overview, be able to create that channel, and I've put in not only the current one, but I've put in change notes each time I update them, just because it would make sense to do that. And what I do is I stretch them until I see all these vertical bars light up in the overview tabs right there. And then I just sort it out for the columns. Oh, I need just a little bit wider. There we go. There. Alright, so there. That's good. And looking good. Tag is good. I like to see the G. And there. Alright. And then I just shorten it a bit. And out here, as you can see, it's pretty wide. You might not like all the information, and I started to delete all of them. They're like the columns and stuff, and I got rid of the the descriptors below. I don't need these anymore if I'm adjusting it to my own tastes. So that's what I did. I might use this as my new default with just these columns and that. But for now, I haven't exported my shortened overview. Now then, my main focus today is to get my freighter to Jeddah, and doing that I use a hyena with webs, and I've shown a video about that. Right now we're dealing with the overview that we'll be using for it. Now I've got friendly fire enabled for my corporation, and these two guys are same corporation. So what I could do right now is just set it up that I'm flying to my next system. Let's go transit, orient, aligning. It's always good to start to align first before you hit your warp 2, especially if you're not going to be webbed. And since I'm on tether, it's going to be impossible to get a web right now. So while I'm aligning, I'll talk to you about what I need to happen with transit. Now I've got transit showing 0 ships, but open it up, and tab presets and states is what you want to look at, because I've disabled all of them, but the limited engagement, which is a duel, I'll show you in a second, and at war, and war and militia, blah blah blah. Okay, and oops, sorry, wrong one. And types, I've got all the ships listed. So as you can see, since I'm not at war and not in a duel with my court member, he's not listed. So I only see enemies and people who have limited engagements, aka duels. Now I've enabled my web character to be set as accept invitations to dueling. You don't want to do it with everybody, because it's just annoying, the spam sometimes. So it'll last for 5 minutes, but as long as you aggress, you're going to stay, it resets to 5 minutes. There we go, 5 minutes. Okay, and off we go, and there we go. So I can see that I've got, and I'll set add first waypoint. I don't set a destination, because you might accidentally send your guy off to the next gate and skip ahead too far. So I know which jump game I'm going to next, and I just add first waypoint and head there. Because of the weapons timer that I will get when I'm webbing, the autopilot and add first waypoint allows me not to have to micromanage that jump. Because you get a refusal to jump if you've got a weapons timer of 60 seconds.
Autopilot disabled. Waypoint reached.
And of course I'll just approach the Stargate. Might as well set the first waypoint. Might not want to do that. You could get in the habit of just immediately starting to warp there. So it's always a good idea to foolproof your system. Now, in a busy system, you'd see a lot more ships, and sometimes a ship will appear and it's hard to target your freighter. But that's what I've set the duel. See if we can see
Warp drive
this guy
active.
pop up right away. Nobody else is popping up. Simple. And you just hit 1 and you just hit 2. Now what you don't do is hit both your webs and then target the obelisk. That is oftentimes going to set you up to not warp instantly. I don't know the actual mechanics, and it might involve math, so forgive me, but yeah, you're not going to get help from me
Engaged.
in that area.
Warp drive active.
Yeah, so that's why I have the transit set up the way I do, and it's really helpful. You see war targets and duels, and that's it for ships. It's a real good system. It's not smart to, well, you think, oh, why don't you just have play PvP? You really don't want to get your cluttered up by friendlies and
Autopilot jumping.
enemies at the same time, especially in PvP. And plus, for this
Autopilot
situation,
disabled. Waypoint
you might
reached.
have a non-corp member webbing you. And what are you going to do then? So, or you're webbing a non-corp member. Yeah, what are you going to do then? So yeah, dueling is smart. And also, just a pro tip as I'm ending this, don't disable this pop-up. There's a lot of pop-ups you want to disable because they're annoying, but deal with this annoyance. It will help you a lot. Never disabled it. I know it's annoying, just don't do it. Alright,
Warp drive active.
and on my way, and I think that's it for the overview today. There's a lot more to the overview than meets the eye, and a lot of the stuff is really helpful, even if you're customizing your own stuff. It's great fun, but there's a lot of annoying bits to it. So do try to avoid those. Take it slow and easy when dealing with overview. Okay, that's about it for today.